Hello. John Paris was a North Carolina journalist of my father's generation. After returning from duty in World War II, where he was a correspondent for various wire services and newspapers, he devoted the next 40 years to roaming the mountains and writing about the people and the places. This particular piece is called The Thrill and Magic of a Country Store. Among the most cherished memories of my childhood is the recollection of Uncle John's country store at Christmas time. To a little boy ticking off the years from 6 to 10, it was a bazaar of fascinating wonders. All the thrill and magic of Christmas was there. This was a period in which most of us can identify. It was back when few folks in the mountains saw oranges except during the Christmas season. Like other country stores of the time, Uncle John's took on a delightfully new appearance and a fresh, exciting aroma in early December. Along about the first week of December, Uncle John would get a notice in the mail that holiday goods he had ordered from the drummer 3 or 4 months back were waiting to be picked up at the railroad depot in Sylva. So he'd hitch up his team to the wagon and start out before daylight on the 8-mile round trip, leaving a penciled note tacked to the door of the store that he would be back about mid-afternoon. After he had loaded up his wagon down at the depot in Sylva, he'd drive by our house, which was just 5 minutes away, and come in and tell Mama that he had come to take me home with him. "I need this young feller to come help me get my Christmas goods straightened out," he'd say. "So bundle him up and we'll get started." And Mama would bundle me up in my coat and mittens and wool toboggan, and Uncle John would lift me up onto the wagon seat, and we'd set out up the road. About 3 or 4 o'clock, we'd pull up in front of the store. Uncle John would hitch the team to the hitching rail and start unloading the wagon. There'd be some folks waiting to buy things, such as coffee or sugar or coal oil or matches. He'd tell them he'd wait on them when he got the wagon unloaded, so they'd pitch in and help him. Uncle John would always wait until the next morning to open up the crates and boxes and arrange his new stock of Christmas goods. For me, it was like Christmas coming early. Somewhere among the crates and boxes, there'd be firecrackers and torpedoes and Roman candles. Uncle John saved these till the last. He'd open a box and shake his head and say he reckoned the drummer forgot to send the firecrackers. There'd be a couple of sacks of oranges and a sack of coconuts. The coconuts were for Aunt Minnie and Aunt Lou. He ordered them so they could make coconut cakes for Christmas, which their menfolks and kin liked better than fruitcake. Finally, there would be only one small crate left. "Yep," he'd say, "looks like they forgot to send the firecrackers." And then he'd break open the box. Inside, there'd be a lot of little boxes. Uncle John would take one out real careful-like and set it on the counter. Then he'd pry off the lid and I'd let out a squeal. The drummer hadn't forgotten the firecrackers after all. The little box was lined with red paper. It was filled with sawdust and shavings. Uncle John would rake away some of the sawdust and shavings, and there would be bright red little packs of Chinese firecrackers and torpedoes covered with red paper. He'd dig down a little more, and there would be the Roman candles. "Let's go shoot 'em, Uncle John," I'd beg. "Let's go shoot 'em now." And he would say they were for Christmas and we'd have to save 'em till then. But I would keep begging, and finally Uncle John would take a pack of the Chinese firecrackers and we'd go down to the river and we'd shoot them. We never shot 'em all at one time like you were supposed to do. We'd unravel the string of tiny firecrackers and shoot 'em one at a time. And Uncle John would say he bet we were scaring all the fish out of the river. Then we'd go back to the store, and Uncle John would start arranging all the stuff that had come in. Uncle John never did have toys like they had in stores at home, but things he stocked at Christmas time were better than the toys in the town stores. Things that caught a boy's eye and sent him to wishing, like Barlow knives with bone handles and two blades, or the light #2 steel traps a boy needed to set up his own trap line for trapping muskrats and the like, or Jew's harps or harmonicas, which were called French harps hereabouts. But mostly Uncle John's Christmas stock was made up of fruits and nuts, which he never carried except during the holiday season, and which folks never bought or asked for except at Christmas time. Oranges were still a rarity for most mountain folk, even in the early years of my childhood. As a matter of fact, when Mama was a young girl, oranges were such a rarity that most folks believed they could only be bought at Christmas time. This belief probably was fostered by the fact that merchants never displayed the golden fruit at any other season. As a result, oranges were symbolic of Christmas as popcorn ornamented Christmas trees or stockings hanging from the fireplace mantel. And in Uncle John's store, the oranges stood out like golden headlights. Folks who were short of hard cash brought in eggs and swapped them to him for oranges. Somehow, my own memory of early childhood Christmases and the December days around Uncle John's store is associated with oranges. And Uncle John saw to it that there was always an orange in my stocking when we spent Christmas with him at Uncle Jake's and Aunt Minnie's or at Grandma's and Grandpa's. He would never let me have an orange before Christmas. And being around the store with him and seeing the oranges, I just couldn't wait till Christmas morning. But I did. To all of you, from all of us at Mountain Home Music, happy holidays.